Last week we had a look at the Scott Aussie Profit Power Up Calculator. If you remember, we were looking at how if you're looking to try and achieve a big difference in your business, like maybe doubling your profits, you can focus on something that's big, like saying, I'm going to double my sales. But that's not all that easy. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's probably rather unachievable. Unachievable? Unachievable. Yeah, unachievable. But if you were to break it down and look at a number of different areas in your business and aim for a small, say 5 or 10% increase in each of those, the combined result when you take all those tiny little improvements together is that big difference that you were looking for. So if you haven't had a look at last week's video, I suggest you go back and have a look at that. Have a little play with the Scott Aussie Profit Power Up calculator that we've put on the website. And just as a bit of a reminder, the way we've set it up, it's all secure, it's all private. None of those details that you plug in are recorded or come to us. The only person who sees them is you. So it's a great little tool to have a play with and see how these little incremental differences in your business can make a huge, huge difference to your bottom line. But last week we promised that the first element that we'd be targeting was your audience reach. So that's what we're going to talk about this week. And let's dive straight in. So why are we starting with audience reach? Essentially because that's the foundation that everything else is built upon. How many people know about your business in some way? So that's the reason we're starting here, because it is the foundation that everything else is built upon. And it's one thing to say that we're going to increase this audience reach by 10%, but a much better way, or a much more important thing to focus on, is ensuring that when you increase it by 10% or by whatever percent you're aiming for, that you increase it by the right percentage, the right people. Because increasing your audience size with people that may never buy or will never buy from you is a waste of time. Now, look, years and years ago when Facebook was in its infancy, a lot of brands spent a lot of money trying to build their audience. And some people came up with this great idea of buying followers, which made the brand look good. You know, this brand had 100,000 or 1 million people following it. But if you actually looked at who those people were, they were quite often fake profiles or people from other parts of the world. And if you're, I don't know, a restaurant or whatnot in Western Australia, the fact that you've got 100,000 followers in India or Bangladesh or China or anywhere, um, it doesn't really achieve much. So that's what we're focusing on, is increasing your audience size by people that will actually be of relevance to you. And the best way to get a handle on that is by focusing on your ideal customer profiles. Now, this is something we've looked at plenty of times before at Scott Aussie. There's plenty of stuff on our website and on the blog post articles about how to build your ideal customer profile if you haven't already. So we're not going to dive into it too deeply. But with everything we're talking about, your ideal customer profile is the starting point. If you haven't built your ideal customer profile out yet, then have a look at some of those other resources on the website. And as always, if you're looking for assistance with any of this stuff, that's what we're here for. But let's assume you know who your ideal customer is. You know what makes them tick and how to speak to them. The first place we're going to look is your website. Now, your website is a project that's never really completely finished. There's always something more that can be tested and can be improved. So let's dive in and start having a look at your website. Look at your SEO efforts. Again, this is another element that is never 100% finished. It's a continual process. Having a look at the keywords you're appearing for in the search rankings. Now, there's a lot of sort of talk at the moment in the industry about how SEO may be going the way of the dinosaur because of AI and how Google now isn't sending a lot of traffic through to individual websites because it's answering the questions in that search box or on that front page, AI summaries. But here's the thing, that information still has to come from somewhere. And that's why SEO is just as important now as it's ever been. Have a look at the process you're going through on your website. Have a look at the keywords that you're searching, appearing for, and have a look at some of those ones that perhaps you are appearing for, but you're a little bit further down the line. What work can we do to get that boost up so that you're either appearing on that first page or even better, so that your content starts appearing in those AI generated summaries. Because if that doesn't get you a 10% increase in your audience reach, then I don't think anything will. But let's move on, because that's not the only option that there is. On your social media, have a look at what's working, have a look at what others are doing that's getting some traction, and try and emulate it. Now, by emulate, I certainly do not mean copy, because everyone can tell when you're just copying somebody else. And that's not really sharing your brand, it's not sharing your voice, and it's probably not going to appeal to your ideal customer profile. But have a look at what's working, have a look at the trends. And one of the big keys I always suggest is have a look at trends that are working outside of your industry. If your social media feed just looks like every other restaurant or every other accommodation provider, then you're just one of 100 people doing the exact same thing. But have a look and follow Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. Have a look at social media profiles for businesses that are doing well outside of your industry. Maybe it's an accountant that's sharing some accountancy tips, or a mechanic that's sharing information about what it's like to run a mechanics workshop. Have a look at what they're doing outside of your industry and see how you can add your own spin onto it, and see, let's see if we can boost that social media profile or those social media views by that 10%. But it's important, don't spread yourself too thin. You're better off focusing on one or two social media platforms and doing it well than trying to be everywhere and making a bit of a mess of it. Paid advertising. Now, this is a quick way to get some of these quick wins if you're looking to try and boost your audience reach by that 10%. But it's also, when it's not done right, a really easy way to blow your budget. So the important thing is to test and measure everything. Let's use Facebook or Google Ads as the example. Instead of just designing an ad that you think looks great and you think will appeal to your audience, split your budget across a number of different ads and make them all just slightly differently. And then on a regular basis, see which ones are performing well. Test, different offers, different images, different colors, test the wording. And the way to do this is, let's say you've got 3 different ads. Each one of them has the exact same offer, the exact same wording, but the picture is different on each one. If one of them gets much better results than the other 2, then stick with that picture and now do 3 different versions of the ad again, this time changing the offer or some other element. And each time you go through, keep the one that's working well, and with each iteration, you should see much better results. The same thing goes with your email marketing, and it's the exact same principle and the exact same methodology. If you've got a big enough list, and you do need a reasonable size list to be able to make this work and get any sort of statistically relevant results. But before sending out your email newsletter or your promotion or whatever it is to your entire list, pick a small segment of it and send them 2 slightly different versions. The one that gets a higher open rate or more click-throughs and that type of thing, that's the one that you then send out to the whole list. So that is really just a very quick recap of some of the different things you can be doing online to boost your online presence or your online audience by that magic 10% that we're chasing. But what about offline? Have a look at your local partnerships. If you're in tourism and hospitality and you're not already working with your local visitor centers or your regional tourism organizations, you absolutely should be. Are there other businesses that you can be reaching out to that offer complementary services that you could partner up with, so that you're sending business their way and they're sending business yours? And especially if you're in regional areas where you have a strong community feel, it does make a big difference to be involved in the local community with things like local sporting teams and sponsorship and that type of thing. Now, you may be wondering, how on earth will sponsoring the local football team increase my awareness with people from outside of town? It might not, until they arrive in town. If they arrive in town and they can see your logo up on the local sporting field sponsors board, or they see kids in town with your logo on the back of their shirt, etc., because you're involved, then it sounds a little corny, it's a little bit old-fashioned, but it's still, that's the kind of stuff that goes a long way. And in a world when everyone is so focused on online and digital and social media, it's these types of things that can really make a huge difference. And the area or when it makes the biggest difference, in my opinion, is when you can combine these online and offline ideas um, together. Things like in your print advertising, including QR codes that link to interactive elements on your website. Maybe it's a video tour of the premises or your most up-to-date menu. Augmented reality is a fantastic thing that's really still in its infancy, and a lot of people aren't doing much with it, but it is not that hard to get involved, and it makes a big difference. And as always, with different tracking links, putting different URLs onto different brochures so that you can keep track of what's working and what isn't. But before you go down the path of any of this stuff, have a look at what your current reach numbers and have a look at where the easiest 10% gains are going to be. Because it's important to make sure that you keep track of where you're starting from so that you can measure that level of success. Make sure you set these clear goals for what you're going to achieve over the next couple of months. And as always, if you need any support, that's what Scott Aussie is here for. Now, next week, we're going to look at how to increase your engagement levels so that once you've increased that audience size, how do we get them to engage with your business in some way a little bit more? Whether that's downloading your menu, making an inquiry, and that type of thing. So stay tuned for next week, and we'll see you then.